I feel like I'm taking crazy pills some days. I concede it's entirely possible I, in fact, could be the crazy one. But for the moment, let me make the case that it's the Canadian political legal establishment that's flown the cuckoo's nest here. In a split decision, the Supreme Court of Canada struck down a 2011 Harper-era law that made it mandatory for rapists, pedophiles, and other dregs of that ilk to be added to the National Sex Offender Registry. And those with 2 or more offenses would remain on that list for life. The ruling follows the case of a man charged with 2 counts of sexual assault in 2015 after he admitted to sexually assaulting 2 women at a house party in 2011. At the time, that guy was 19 years old and sentenced to 6 months in prison and 3 years probation. Now, your friendly neighborhood pedo can apply to have his status changed, thanks to the compassion of Canada's Supreme Court. The Trudeau government has been remarkably silent on the ruling, deferring, as Liberals tend to the wisdom of the Supreme Court, as though it were as infallible as the Pope. This would be a textbook case for applying the Charter's notwithstanding clause to override the top court's decision. It's a constitutional sledgehammer that should not be used casually and should be used sparingly. The court gets it wrong all the time, creating fake rights where none exist and failing to protect real rights that have long existed. But that sledgehammer should be swung only when the court is so obviously wrong and detached from reality that no precedent of casuality would be set. Keeping the names of repeat pedophiles and rapists on a publicly disclosed list is clearly one such case. When I hire a news reporter, I'd like to know if an applicant pops up on a list like that when I Google them. But it would seem that in this post-national dominion in which we now live, this would be unfair and cruel. What is fair and not cruel is to preemptively treat law-abiding citizens as criminals, so the logic goes. While invoking the notwithstanding clause to keep rapists and pedos on a list would constitute a gross violation of our rights, invoking the Emergencies or War Measures Act to put down a protest of bouncy castles and hot tubs is apparently fine. In 2022, a repeat pedophile can move into your neighborhood or land a job at your office free from public knowledge. But an Alberta Métis grandmother can be jailed without bail for months on end and legally stopped from speaking publicly before her trial for the crime of organizing a protest against the federal government that nakedly stripped away people's real rights. Crazy pills. Law-abiding firearms owners are regularly subjected to pre-crime harassment by the federal government. On the thoroughly discredited liberal belief that stopping hunters and sport shooters from owning firearms will stop criminals from hurting people, the Liberals used a combination of legislation and cabinet decrees to ban wide swaths of guns. This came in the cabinet decree of May 2020 that banned 1,500 different firearms, mostly because they look scary in the eyes of people who know nothing about guns. Or in June 2022, when they announced that the sales of all handguns in Canada would be banned, which police say will do nothing to reduce crime. Of course, it's unlikely the Liberals in Supreme Court will see much wrong with a national gun clingers registry to keep track of Canadians convicted of not handing in their otherwise lawful property. They're doing everything they can to quietly reintroduce the infamous long gun registry, the national plan that wasted billions of tax dollars without doing anything to stop real criminals. That's one registry the Liberals in Supreme Court seem to have no problem with. Repeat, convicted sexual predators are protected from having their names added to a registry, while protesters against authoritarian overreach and lawful gun owners are treated like criminals in this country. Maybe I am taking crazy pills, or maybe I've just become a curmudgeonly old man long before my time, but I suspect that the internal contradictions of moral relativism have finally become too obvious to ignore. Canadian Shooting Sports Association. Without the CSSA, our gun rights would have been taken long ago. These guys are on the front lines helping to draft smart and intelligent firearms regulations and legislation in Canada, and more importantly, educating the public about how we keep guns out of the hands of the wrong people. To become a member, it's absolutely worth every penny. You can become a Western Standard member for just $10 a month or $99 a year for unlimited access